Mr. Topher Field!
Joining me now is that inspiring and brave Australian documentary filmmaker, Topher Field.
Melbourne, my home. What unfolded here shocked the world and caused many to wonder what happened to Australia. In the middle of it all were ordinary people, people like us. My name is Topher Field. I'm the director of Battleground Melbourne.
Topher is on a mission to empower people.
The only thing that limits government power is the limit of our obedience.
But we realized a deeper...
Right, well that was a less than ideal start. That was meant to be a 2-minute intro video that doesn't want to play. So you know what, blow it. Let's not have a 2-minute intro video. Welcome to a Topher Field podcast tonight. I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Monica Smit. Now, of course, she needs no introduction. You know who I'm talking about. You might even be watching on one of Monica's pages. And if this is your first Topher Field podcast, welcome. You are in the right place. You might have been expecting Monica's face to show up. I'm actually hosting tonight. Monica is my guest. I'm looking forward to talking with her, learning about what she has been through, what an ordeal she has been through, representing herself in court. What a phenomenal thing. That just the nerve that requires, let alone doing it and actually being able to hold her head high. She was right. She was judged by the court to be right in 2 out of the 3 cases. It's my personal opinion that she was right in all 3. But nevertheless, even the court has said she was right in 2 out of the 3. But as I'm sure you're aware, our system of justice being what it is, they've still awarded costs against her. I'm fascinated to find out what her plans are going forward. I know that she's like a dog with a bone. She is absolutely determined, and I know that determination has not been dimmed by these events. But she's also very, very strategic, very, very clever. And so I'm very, very curious to find out what it is that she's got planned and what she's going to do next. So Shelley B says, hello, Topher and Monica. Looking forward to this interview. Thank you for joining us. Mr. Stu says, g'day, mate. Hi, Monica. And the girls say hello. Say hello to Iris and Violet for us, Mr. Stu. Paul says hi back to Shelley. Ethan is playing Roblox and Base Wars whilst listening. You know what? Why not? If it works for you, good. Tim Molesworth in King Lake West. So let us know where you're watching from, wherever you are in Australia or indeed around the world. We're expecting a lot of people joining us. I know Monica has a huge following internationally. We're expecting a lot of people. So this is Marcel from Northern Rivers in New South Wales. Julie, thank you for joining us. And look, it's going to be a really, really good chat. We're going to start by talking about the court case. We're going to start by talking about what happened. Then we're going to talk about what's next and what Monica has planned. And then we're also going to just shoot the breeze a little bit on some other things. Now, Monica is unfortunately under a lot of time pressure at the moment. She has very, very graciously gone through with doing this interview with me, despite the fact that she's had some technical challenges. She's had some issues. She may or may not tell us about those. That's up to her. But nevertheless, please just know that even though we are going to cut tonight a little bit shorter than a normal Topher Field podcast would be, please don't hold that against Monica. She has actually been phenomenally generous in still coming on with me tonight, despite all of what's going on behind the scenes. Now, before I do get stuck in, watching in Guam, sorry, I've got to bring this one on the screen. Warwick is apparently watching in Guam. Mate, welcome. Thanks for watching. That's quite remarkable. And people watching from all over the world. Joe is watching from San Francisco. We've got people from the Gambia and Victoria, people from all sorts of places. So thank you guys, everyone, for signing in and for watching. Now, I made my wife a promise a little while ago that I would do a better job of promoting my stuff because I do lots of things. I travel around and Monica does lots of things as well. She understands this challenge very, very well. And the funny thing is we all get accused of being grifters. I tell you what, if I could make $1 doing this, I would. I haven't figured out how to yet. I lose money every year being Topher Field. And my wife's a little bit sick of it, and understandably so. So I promised her that I would do a better job of promoting my stuff. So in order to not be in the doghouse tonight, let me quickly promote my stuff. Let me just make sure that's working. There we go. All right, this is the Topher Field website. Go to goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. I'm just going to put that into the chat here, goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. If you go there, then you will find that you are able to, you might actually have to copy and paste it. I didn't put the hang on, let me put the www. Just so I can tell my wife, I really did do it properly. Breakbadlaws.com. Okay, so that'll be a link this time. All right, so there's a couple of things available here. I've got the pre-sale for my next book, Good Christians Break Bad Laws. That's about the theology of civil disobedience. If you believe in God, if you're a Christian and you're not quite sure how civil disobedience gels with the Bible, I dive into it in this particular book. That's up for pre-sale now. You'll have that by November of this year. However, my original book, Good People Break Bad Laws, is already available. You can buy that absolutely anytime you want, and that'll get delivered to you ASAP. The amazing guys at AussieBot Studio out in Horsham will ship that to you. But also, we have now the master class is now up for sale. So the master class is finished. The 6th week was held on Wednesday, just gone. It is called Getting Your Head in the Game. And the bio here, the world has gone mad, but you don't have to. The media is full of doom, gloom, and despair, and there's no question that the future will be challenging, but we don't decide what time in history we live. We only get to decide what to do with the time that we are given. And Monica, my guest tonight, is a wonderful example of someone who is doing just that. You can live well even during bad times. It's about making good choices, and making good choices starts with getting your head right. It's a 6-week course. It's already been pre-recorded. So if you sign up for this, you can jump in, and all 6 weeks are already available to you. They've already been recorded. You can just hit play and go for it. Week 1 is about focus. Week 2 is about hope, courage, faith, not just religious faith, but faith in each other and faith in ourselves, community, and then next steps was what we just did on Wednesday. People, over 50 people have now done the course already. Bridget says it's just brilliant information and super important realizations. Susie said, I've already felt a shift. I'm enjoying the practical points and ideas. Gloria said, I'm so grateful. It's come at a good time in my life. Jenny says, brilliant, empowering us with valuable skills. And Greg says the session on courage resonated really strongly for me. So that is one of the key things that I have been working on for some time and finally put it into action. And that it became available now to be, rather than as the live, which is just finished, that's now available for watching and for purchase. So all you got to do is go to goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com and find the Getting Your Head in the Game Masterclass, and you'll find that there. Gregory Harris says, I recommend the course. Thank you very much, Greg, for that. And Andrew is saying the book is very interesting and thought-provoking indeed. So look, let's not muck around. You're here for Monica. I've done the obligatory. My wife can't complain. I've promoted my stuff. I'm off scot-free. Now let's get on with the business of tonight. Let's talk to Monica Smit all about the court case and so much more. Without further ado, Monica, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me here on the Topher Field Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Now, you are, I would say, one of the most remarkable people that I know, just for this amazing combination of almost, don't be offended, blindly crazy, insane determination mixed with actual intellect and strategy. So many people have determination, but they're idiots and they're bulldogs bashing their head against a brick wall. Lots of people are strategic, but in the process, they become fearful and timid. Somehow you've brought those two together. Tell me a little bit about your decision to take on the Victorian government and to represent yourself in court, and how that worked out for you.
I mean, some could describe me as crazy and stupid as well. But, you know,
I didn't.
I did, because I think you need to be a little crazy to do what I did, and to do the things that you've done and things like us do. I think that element of crazy is actually what gets us to do things. I kind of get excited at this anticipation of walking into a courtroom with 2 barristers and 2 solicitors and other people in the audience backing them up, and a massive law firm back at the office backing them up as well. And just little old me just looking over at them like, gosh, you're embarrassing, you know? And it kind of gets me off, if I'm going to be crude. Like, it makes me excited, you know? And then the stress that comes along with it kind of, it's, I guess you could say, when you're in that moment, it feels like you're a little bit on a high, you know, because there's just so much going on, and it's kind of exciting. And again, I like a story, and I knew that it was going to make a good story regardless. However, with all of that stuff aside, I did it because what happened to me that day, for those of you who don't know, I was arrested 3 times in one day while doing my job as a journalist. Although I always admitted that I was aligned with the sentiments of the event, and I agreed with anti-lockdown sentiments and all that, I was still reporting. They arrested me 3 times. The second time they put me in a divvy van for 45 minutes. I didn't get any charges. They were all dropped, and they were all just summary offences anyway. And, you know, I thought that what happened to me was wrong. And it wasn't just about me. Hundreds, thousands of Victorians also got arrested under different circumstances during that time, including yourself, including the kettling.
Let's not forget. Can we remember that Cup Day kettling 500 people in a single day?
Yeah.
So you were standing up for a lot more than just yourself.
And that was 3 days after what happened to me. So that was like really in the same time. So for me, I knew I could only use my story, but I knew it was for everyone else as well. And not everyone has the resources and the craziness, or whatever you want to call it, to go all the way. I can handle it to a certain extent. I'm not saying that it was easy, but I can handle it. So I was like, well, I'm the right person for it. I also have no children. I don't have any big assets. So I am the right person with little to lose. Now, I can just keep going and just say that, like, I achieved that mission. And we have set a precedent. And I want everyone here listening anyone out there that was arrested during pro-freedom and pro-freedom rallies, that you now have every right to have your own claim if you were not told specifically why you were being arrested. Now, they can't say, this isn't legal advice, this is just general advice, but they can't say you're being arrested for breaching show directions. They need to tell you exactly which direction you're being arrested for. Now, that is why one of the arrests were deemed unlawful. So, hey, we have set case law, and I now have a medium for people to, I'm going to have a template sort of statement of claim, and we're going to be able to help people adjust it. And we're going to put in hundreds and hundreds of cases using my case law, and it's going to be brilliant and fun.
All right, so your audio just broke up a tiny bit right at the end there. I don't know if it did for everybody or if that was just for me, but can you say to me again about how people who were also arrested you're providing them with a portal or something to be able to make a claim?
Yes. So, sorry, I was supposed to provide you with these things, but it is just monicasmit.com. There's a tile right on the front page, and it says, were you unlawfully arrested during a pro-freedom rally? Click on that and fill out the form. You've got to have proof, guys. Don't bother without proof. You know, you need a video, you need something. Cool. I don't want you guys going down rabbit holes for no reason. And it's $400, and you'll get specific legal advice from a lawyer, and we'll just go from there. All the information's on there anyway. And I also want people to know that the second reason one of the arrests were unlawful was because, we'll use the gathering limit as the example. So you couldn't gather it with more than 10 people for a common purpose, right? So anyone under the 10 people, anyone 9 and under, is unlawfully arrested, because at the time of the arrest, they were no longer breaching the show direction. And that is why the third arrest was deemed unlawful. So anyone that was kettled and was left near the end, under 10 people, you have a very good claim. Not that I'm a lawyer, but hey, based on the case law, okay? And when the gathering limits went up, then even more people would be in that situation, right? So that's why a lawyer would be able to come up with a template that can be used over and over again, and that's why it's cheap. Now, can I just say, people are obviously going to be scared of the cost order that I got, which we'll get into in a second, but I want to let you guys know the only reason why I got a massive cost order against me, and for those of you who don't know, it's $250,000, but it's not the end of the game. But anyway, the reason is, if you're unsure, because it is very confusing, the Victoria Police, the government, offered me $15,000 to not go to trial. Now, I call it hush money, but a lawyer would call it the system, which is designed to not clog up the court system and stuff like that. However, I offered them a deal. I said, I don't care about the money. All I care about is a public apology. And they refused to give me a public apology. So I did negotiate with them. I tried to negotiate with them. If I had gotten the public apology, I might have considered taking a deal with zero money. But no, they wouldn't do that. They said that I had zero prospects of success. Now, I won 2 out of the 3 arrests, and people might be wondering, how can you possibly have to pay the cost for winning the case? I know, crazy. But the system is basically, because the judge only awarded me $4,000 for 2 unlawful arrests, basically because I'm a mentally strong person, and she said I didn't experience enough distress, right? But anyway, So if you get awarded less by going through trial, they technically consider that a loss because you could have had a better outcome at mediation without going to court and wasting all the court's time. Now, I said to the judge in the beginning that it was not about the money for me. It was always about the public apology or forced public apology, which would be winning the case, public vindication. Now, I got my public vindication. I was not able to get that during the mediation. So I think that my result going through trial was far more favorable, which means that the cost order thing shouldn't have happened. But anyway, for the people out there who do fit the scenarios I just explained, you can take the deal if you want to, okay? No one expects everyone to be as crazy as me, but you've got to understand, I only did it because I have a public profile and I'm making a point. If you don't have a profile and you've got kids and mortgages and stuff like that, like probably taking the deal might be a better, not that I'm a lawyer, just take the deal. Yeah. You don't have to all be like me, okay? So don't be afraid of this cost order because you're going to have opportunities to take deals. And because we've set this case law precedent, you're going to get a deal. And if there's hundreds of different cases going through Victoria Police and the government, and there has to be lawyers for each case, yeah, it's going to be interesting.
So this is the thing, Monica, you have chosen to be the tip of the spear. And the tip of the spear is the thing that has the pleasure of doing the most damage, but it's also the thing that endures the most damage in return. It's literally, it's the tip of the spear. If anything's going to get bent, it's that tip that bends it. But there's a funny thing about the tip of a spear. It only has impact because of everything else that's behind it that isn't the tip of the spear. It's the people on the team. It's the people supporting financially. It's the people watching podcasts and being aware of what you're doing. It's the people who showed up at court. And by the way, anyone watching who showed up at any point during the trial to support Monica in person, massive thank you. I know from Monica as well, but also just from me. I couldn't be there. I've moved out of Melbourne now, and it wasn't feasible for me with my family, etc., to get down there. And I'm just deeply grateful to everyone that did for showing up and really supporting Monica. But Monica has taken on a huge risk, a gargantuan task that could have backfired spectacularly. Your haters, of course, Monica, argue that it has backfired, but it could have gone poorly. It could have gone where you weren't vindicated at all. And you took that risk, the risk to your reputation, the risk to all the time and the investment of your own resources, the opportunity cost, etc. And as a result, I would describe this as you've cracked the door open ajar, right? You've just cracked the door open that little bit. And for people that happen to fit the description of the circumstances that you mentioned, then you've really genuinely made a real opportunity here for people to be able to sort of widen that door that little bit further. And I'm mindful of people like yourself, people like Avi, who got an apology from the police for his wrongful arrests, people like Nick Patterson, who ultimately won in court, proving that Victoria Police actually assaulted him rather than the other way around. Now, these results don't turn everything around. Everyone's waiting for that Hollywood moment where you walk out the front of the courtroom and there's crowds cheering and it's all. That's not how real life works. What happens is each of us fight our own little battle, and together we get somewhere. And you've really fought your own little battle, and I hope you're incredibly proud of what you've achieved. I think it's incredible. So. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I got exactly what I wanted. So I made a deal with God, and I said, it's not about the money. I won't be greedy. Please keep me humble. If it goes really well, I could, be a bit arrogant about it. So it's not about the money. Keep me humble. I just want to make a point. Well, next time I'm going to be a little bit more specific about my goal with God, because I said it wasn't about the money, but I didn't say I wanted to go minus $300,000. Like, come on, what a joke. Yeah. Like next time I'm going to be very specific. But I am just so grateful that something went my way. You're absolutely right. And I'll write it as long as I need to. And thank you for thanking the supporters who came, because there was one gentleman, Daniel, who came every single day, and a lot Daniel of other Harris, people. I believe. Just here. Oh, okay, great. Well, not a surprise there. So, and there was other people who came like 95% of the time, but he's the standout there. But
Yeah. So what's really interesting to me, one of the things that's becoming crystal clear as I watch yourself and others doing your various fights, and I've of course had my fights. I was pursued with criminal charges for 2.5 years for Facebook posts. I mean, that's very relevant now with the misinformation, disinformation bill coming forward, all of that nonsense. But one of the things that's become really clear to me is the degree to which the system itself is the problem by design. And one of the blocks that people can have when they look at things like this is they say, well, it can't have been an unjust outcome because I know a judge and she's a really nice person, or I know a prosecutor and he's a really lovely person. He would never deliberately, intentionally pervert the course of justice or aid in prosecuting people unlawfully. And, or I know a police officer or whatever the case may be. And the unfortunate reality is that it is the system itself, the design of the system itself, that creates these sorts of outcomes. And as Monica just described there, if you can go to court for all the right reasons and you can be right and you can win, and the police can actually engineer a situation where you will lose financially. And Monica, it is my view that it is entirely possible that they intentionally engineered this in your case. I have a bit to do with people who are deep inside Victoria Police. There's a few that aren't terrible, and I have a relationship with a few different people, and I get some interesting bits of information, nothing related specifically to your case. But I know for a fact that when prosecutors know that the person they are up against is principled and will not take a deal, that there have been instances in the past where they will increase the monetary offer that they make, specifically to engineer the outcome where the judge will award them less money than they were offered pre-trial. And they actually design it that way. And they view it as a second way of winning. We might lose in the courtroom, but we bankrupt the person, or we destroy the person financially. We make sure they'll never do this again. We teach them a lesson. And there's this real arrogance that comes out of some of these people, but it's enabled by the system, by the design of the system itself. And this is one of the things that we're up against here. The political system is broken. The legal system is broken. And it's not broken in such a way that bad people get bad outcomes. It's actually broken in such a way that good and decent people participate in evil and in bad outcomes because of the way the system is actually designed. I don't expect you necessarily to comment on that. That's probably a dangerous thing for you to do, but that's my...
Well, no, I will say, though, that I don't think that was the plan in my case, because they only offered me $15,000, which for three unlawful arrests, it's really not much. And actually, case law really actually backs me up at 35, 65K per arrest. I'm surprised they didn't increase it more during the trial to make me feel. But I had said publicly many times that I would not take a deal. So I'll tell you what, they probably knew legal things that I didn't know, and they obviously estimated my damages at that price. But I also don't think they thought I would win any of it. So I don't know. Look, the judge had every discretion to not award me damages. She had enough arguments against awarding me damages, and she didn't take those opportunities, very good opportunities to do that. Because what people need to know is that if a court case is deemed a public interest case, then the Calder Bank offer doesn't apply as much, because the monetary result is not as important because it's of public interest. And I think that's a bloody good argument, and I made it, and it didn't stand up, and it should have. It really should have. She said it's not necessarily a public interest case, but it has elements of public interest. Well, what the heck is that? So that's what I mean. She had every opportunity. I think that she took very much offense to me creating a publicity stunt out of my court case. She really didn't like that. In between the judgment and the order of costs, she looked at my social media and she saw how much I'd been marketing the case, how much I'd been commenting on it, which I'm allowed to. It's my case and it's a public courtroom. And she basically insinuated that I have benefited from this in such a way that she's going to charge me $250,000 for the ability to publish my own situation. But yet she didn't specify any monetary actual benefits from this trial. I don't get paid per post or per like, neither do you. Censored YouTube channels do not get paid per view. So I have no idea what she means by benefiting. But anyway, I'm rambling now. But
so people are asking, what are your plans? And obviously you need to be a little bit circumspect. You can't necessarily lay out your strategy, but in broad terms, what can you tell us about what you're thinking going forward?
Well, I am appealing. I'm knee deep already, so I've got to go all the way. And the reason why is that I have very good arguments for it, which I won't go into, but I've had legal advice on it. And the thing is that's really concerning to me is that it's I've set a good precedence in some respects to the unlawful arrests, but I've set a bad precedence in the sense that who the heck is going to take Victoria Police to trial now if they're going to have a $250,000 cost order against them? It actually emboldens the police more than ever that they can do an unlawful arrest and lose anyway. And it's also a very strong message to people to stay in your box. Take the deal behind closed doors, because you don't want to happen to you what happened to Monica Smit. And I don't want that to be the end of the story. I want the end of the story to be that we won, not we won and it costed us $250,000. That's not good enough. So I am appealing, but I have spent $45,000 of my own money on this, and now I'm in all of that debt. So I am doing a fundraiser. So that I can have legal representation. I cannot do it alone again. I will end up with having a mental breakdown. Okay, it's too much.
I'm amazed I'm amazed that you did it yourself the first time. So I want to be really precise about this. The fundraiser is not in pursuit of raising the money to pay the costs from the previous case. It is to fund getting proper legal support in order for you to run an appeal.
Absolutely. It is only for legal costs for the appeal. That's it. And if we win and get costs awarded back, I will refund all of the money. I've got the software to do that. It's just a few buttons. I only need the money for legal representation. I don't need it I don't have an organization anymore. I sell my books. I don't need your money, but I really need a lawyer. And also, when people support you, it does give you courage, because you know that you're doing it for a lot, because you would not give $50 to someone that you weren't behind. And it's crazy because so many people wanted to crowdfund for the debt. And I was like, no way, I'm not taking your money and giving it straight to the perpetrator. It's dead money. I would not feel good about that. And I would rather be broke and not be able to pay them than take your money and then give it to them. It's crazy.
Can I just say, I'm well past any questions about your integrity, because I saw what happened when they tried to come after your database with Reunite Democracy Australia, and how you were willing to go back to prison just to protect the identities of the people on your database. So for me, there's no questions in my mind about your integrity. But if anyone had questions about your integrity, the fact that you just turned around and said, no, I'm not going to, because I saw people commenting on your posts so people were saying, hey, do a fundraiser. We'll chip into a fundraiser. Money. To help you pay those costs. And my instinct was no, like I'm not in your situation. You've got incredible courage. And so it's not my position to tell you what to do, and I wouldn't presume to, but my instinct was like, oh, Monica, please don't do that. That's not good. And then I kind of went, why am I worried? I don't think she is going to do that. And then sure enough, you've come out really strongly and just said, no, I'm not going to do that. So I think that's brilliant. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
There's no hope. There's no hope attached to it. It's just dead.
Yeah,
I won't fundraise for dead purposes. There needs to be a hopeful. I mean, people have fundraised so much for things that have gone nowhere, and it's a terrible, terrible situation. So you've got to pick and choose when you do fundraising, or no one will trust you. So
100%. And if there's anyone I was going to trust, it would be you. Not everything works out. Not everything works. Sometimes you do put money into things and it doesn't go well. But you've got integrity, and you've got guts, you've got integrity. I think it's amazing. Now, just quickly, we haven't told people where they can buy your book.
So monicasmit.com.
Okay, so it's all there, monicasmit.com.
And don't bother trying to click on the fundraiser, because it's been shut down by the software company. Within about an hour, I already had like $5,000. Thank you, everyone. So obviously it's going to be successful. And they've blocked it. They blocked my account instantly, and I've used them many times and I've never had a problem. Now I've got my website developer now working on an independent site with our own gateway. So I will be sending another email and making another post tomorrow with new details. So don't bother, but you can buy something from my shop and you can add extra money if you want, and that all goes into the same place anyway. And the audio book is only $10. Book is $10.
Yeah, no, it's a great read, and I read it before it was released because I wrote the foreword for it, and I read it from cover to cover before writing the foreword, and I finished it and I went, I'm so glad I read that. Number one, because I've learned so much more about you, Monica, and I have so much more respect and admiration for you than I already did before. But also, I'm a father of 2 young girls, and there's so much in your book that is actually really valuable to me as a father of girls. And so I'm really grateful for it. If you haven't read or listened to Monica's book, I cannot recommend it highly enough. I really do think that everyone needs to do that. So please, it's called Cell 22, and you can find it on monicasmit.com. Now, Monica, moving on from the court case, unless you had something else you wanted to say on that, we're watching at a federal level the government come in with this misinformation, disinformation bill. What are your thoughts on the government saying that they should have the right to shut down misinformation, given how much misinformation we've seen from them over the last 4 years?
The first thing that comes to my mind is I'm going back to prison. Seriously.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Yes.
Sorry, but I know that's not what you were talking about, but
no, but the same thoughts gone through my mind.
I mean, look what's happening in the UK. You know, all they need to do is fabricate some sort of crisis. Then they pretend that they're trying to protect people by censoring you. Then they arrest an old lady for a tweet, and it scares everyone into shutting up. And then when people shut up, it makes it worse because everyone's self-censoring themselves. It is a very dangerous spiral that can get away from us very, very quickly. And the most important thing I would say on that is the only thing that you can do as an individual person without a profile or anything like that is just that you don't self-censor. Okay, if you are at a parent-teacher interview and there's 30 parents in the PTA meeting or whatever the heck they're called, right? And someone's talking about some woke stuff that is just so disgusting that you can barely breathe, say something. Because I bet you 20 out of the 30 other parents probably think the exact same way as you, but they don't have the guts to do the first one, but they might have the guts to be the second one or the third one or the fourth or the fifth. They need one person to say something, just anything, and allow everyone else to feel safe to do it. You know what I mean? So that's it seems so big because I've got to be honest, Topher, you got to look at politics these days. The digital ID bill went through without debate. The Born Alive bill got put, like 75% of the federal government thinks it's okay to leave babies born alive from abortions to die on a table alone without any comforts whatsoever. So no offense to all the lobby groups out there trying to lobby to Parliament. I'm sorry, but if 75% of them are going to vote for babies to die alone, they are evil and you can't actually reason with them. I'm sorry, but you can't. You need to take it into your own hands. And we can change the government over a 10 or 15-year period by infiltrating the major parties again. We can do that. We could join all three major parties at once. You know, they don't share memberships with each other. Anyway, just saying, go to a Greens party, put a pink strike in your hair, put a tattoo on your face, and they won't think twice about you being there. But anyway, the point is that misinformation, disinformation bill, it's going to go through. I mean,
yes and no. Well, so here's the funny thing. You say that, and you're probably correct. But let me put a counterpoint. The same thing was said about Julia Gillard's News Media Council, which was basically a precursor to this, 12 years ago, 13 years ago, whenever that was. And I was involved in the fight against that, and myself and many other great people were involved in the fight against that, and we won. And ultimately, Julia Gillard was brought down as the Prime Minister at the time. Politics is still politics, and it is still messy, and there's a lot of things that we can do. However, I think at this point we have to accept that this is a genuine all hands on deck battle stations moment. I mean, I try to be optimistic. I try to be positive, looking at the things that we can do and how we can take action and how we can make the future a better place. I'm not someone who has a long history of saying the sky is falling, but this is about as real as it gets. And if you're still on the sidelines, if you're watching this and you're still on the sidelines and you're not out there getting involved and supporting people who are the tip of the spear, people like Monica, then you need to do that now. Because if this bill does pass and they start enforcing it the way we're watching happen in Canada, the way we're watching happen in the UK, people like Monica and myself are going to have to leave Australia or go to prison. Now, what's interesting for me is I think back to when I proposed to my wife, and I said to her before I proposed, I said, one thing you need to know about me is that I expect to go to prison someday for my work. And so I'd been a political commentator for about 5 years by then. And she looked at me and said, just make sure I know who to call when you get arrested. And the rest is history. And of course, that did eventually happen. I got arrested and she had a list of people to call. So I upheld my end of the bargain in the end on that one. It was obvious to me 10 years ago, literally, 11 years ago, literally, it was obvious to me that we would reach this point in time. And whether it's the misinformation, disinformation bill right now, or whether we defeat this and something else comes back in 5 or 10 years, we will get to this point. And someone's just asked for a link to your website, Monica. If you could just type that into the chat, and that'll come up for everybody. So this is not a surprise that we've arrived at this point. I saw it coming literally a decade ago, but we're here now. And this really is the all hands on deck moment. And one of the things that strikes me is you're absolutely right. Everyone needs to keep speaking up, but also we need to accept that the person who's most likely to be the first one to speak up is probably going to be a bit of an oddball, someone that we don't necessarily like. That's the nature of people who go first. They're outliers, they're fringe dwellers. They're often people that have said lots of disagreeable things on all sorts of topics in the past, and they're not afraid to say something that is regarded as disagreeable again now. And one of the things that polite people, and I was raised to be polite. I'm not a polite person anymore, but I was raised to be polite. One of the things that we polite people need to do is get over ourselves and be willing to be aligned with people who are not regarded as polite, people that are being maligned in the media, people who are being called names, the Monica Smits of this world, the Topher Fields of this world. If you believe what the media says about us, we're horrible, awful people. Well, actually, we're just people who are willing to go first. We're people that are willing to speak up. I've got a chapter, I think it's chapter 13 in my book, Good People Break Bad Laws, that's titled In Defense of Assholes. And it's literally just talking about the fact that we need these disagreeable people, these assholes, because they're the ones who are most likely to stand up first. And I think our politeness, Monica, has gotten us into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I forget what I was gonna say, but no, keep going, because I missed my point that I was gonna say.
Sorry.
No, it wasn't your fault. But look, it is a slow chat, right? So these things can happen. I must have just gone off into my head or something.
No, that's all right. I'm just mindful of your time, so I am pushing through a little bit faster than I ordinarily would, because I know you've got a lot to do before you can even go to bed tonight.
Yeah, I did want to say something. Is that in defense of assholes? Well, I definitely wouldn't call myself an asshole, but you know what's really interesting? I find happens very much on the I'm going to say the right side of politics, but wherever you want to sit. Let's just say from 6 to 10, if 10 is conservative, whatever. So on the right side of politics is we're so principled through culture, through upbringing, through religion and things like that, that we actually really struggle to work with each other if we disagree on a fundamental issue that we find that is so important to our core values. And this is actually a trap, because if we agree with someone on 70% of things, we should be working with them, but we're too scared to, because we're too scared of that guilt by association, which, by the way, is a made up concept to stop us from working with each other. Now, think about the left. Think about the left. They agree on everything. You know why? Because they don't have principles that are formed through those cultural, religious, upbringing type things. Their principles are made up. They're woke. They're brand new. So they all agree on all of them. And that's why they can work together so well. And they don't argue about anything, because it's all crap anyway, right? So the reason I bring this up is that us conservatives, right wing, freedom people, whatever you want to call yourself, we actually need to dial down our principles just a little bit to make space for strategy. Now, you're not actually denying your principles, okay? But you're learning how to know when to say them and when not to. Sometimes we need to shut up to find the right strategic time to not shut up. And I use that as an example, for example, with the Liberal, a lot of people on here used to be Liberal Party members, right? Because that was a conservative person's home. It was supposed to be the home of the Conservatives. Now, because we got so fed up that they were not aligning with our principles, we all left the Liberal Party, and then it became woke and terrible, right? Because we were standing on our principles. And I respect that, but it hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked. And then you've got the principled One Nation, and I know I didn't want to go back into politics necessarily, but you've got One Nation, the Libertarian Party. They're all great. They've all got great elements, but they struggle to work together because they have a fundamental problem that they don't agree with. And it would be great. It would be great if they could work together better.
Well, what's amazing is in Australia, we have a political system that actually accounts for that, the preferential system, but we don't understand it. And what a failure of the education system, that we have all these people that spent 12 years in primary and secondary education and yet still don't have basic civics, to the point that they can go, okay, I'm going to vote number 1 Libertarian, number 2 One Nation, number 3 for a good independent, blah, 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 and actually understand how to use that is a bit of a travesty, unfortunately. Now, I'm going to jump back topics for a minute.
We don't all know how to use our marbles like you, Topher.
No, indeed. Maybe the marbles video needs to make a comeback before the next federal election. I might have to do a re-release, remaster it, high def with new special effects or something. So I just want to jump back topics for a second. There's been a comment here, and if someone's making a comment like this, then it's pretty much guaranteed that there's a number of people that are asking themselves the same question. Anxious Aussie has said, you don't pay costs if you win. I'm a bit confused with the line being spun. There's no line being spun. Where you do pay costs even if you win in the event that you are offered a pre-trial settlement that exceeds the award that you're given in trial. So Anxious Aussie, there's that detail there, and that's the specific detail that has led to the particular absurd situation that Monica finds herself in now. So there's no line being spun. All is above board. There were plenty of witnesses there. It's all been witnessed by plenty of other people.
And I knew about
Fallout
it.
3,
I knew about it. I knew about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Fallout 3, thank you very much for the comment on the marbles video. I appreciate that. All right. So, Monica, one of the things that a lot of people struggle with in moments like this is the size of the challenge that we're up against. This idea, we're up against the World Economic Forum, we're up against, the UN, we're up against the federal government, the state government, local councils, all these big money interests. The woke agenda has taken over the corporate world. They've got oodles of money slushing around, etc. And there can be a tendency for some people to just feel overwhelmed. Taking the black pill is one of the expressions for it, and just going, throw my hands up in the air and despair, lose hope. I try to be optimistic, but we were just chatting before we started. You've got a slightly different approach to me. Do you want to expand on how you sort of see the world going and what you're kind of hoping for?
Well, I'm not hoping for this, but I just think this is the only way forward, is that it needs to get worse before it gets better. And when I say worse, it might not look that bad. For example, if the misinformation, disinformation bill goes through, for example, if they start using it to censor people, it will shock a lot of people and it will wake a lot of people up. The forced vaccinations woke up a lot of people. All of that, the COVID stuff, oh my gosh, like 50% of the people that are awake now were not awake before COVID happened. So if that's true, then can't you imagine that adversities actually are the best thing for our community? And if something bad was to happen in terms of climate change, lockdowns, or other types of things, it's actually going to build our community groups that are, by the way, already formed. Like, there's hundreds of community groups all around Australia, and there are people waiting for an opportunity to have to join those groups when they feel like there's no other option. So I think the government needs to push the buttons a bit more. They need to push us a bit too far. And that's when that's just how it is. That's human nature. We don't do anything until we're affected. The only reason why we got so many people on the streets during the lockdowns was because it affected so many people. Otherwise, you can't get people on the streets. You can't get, not that the streets are the answer, by the way. But anyway, I think things need to get worse, and you can just prepare for that.
Yeah. Well, you're spot on in this sense. I like I said, I've been a political commentator now for 15 years, which put me in this really interesting position. When COVID came along, my audience sort of multiplied by 10, because outside of a COVID type situation, no one cares, like you said. And everyone thought of me as the COVID guy, and it sort of was a bit annoying. It's like, well, actually, I've been talking about mismanagement of irrigation water in the Murray-Darling Basin for a decade now. I've been talking about freedom of speech and over-taxation, over-regulation for years. I've been talking about climate change. I traveled to the US and Canada and did a documentary series on climate change. But now I'm just the Marvels guy or the COVID guy. Anyway, put me aside for a moment. What was wonderful was to see all these people standing up. And what I used to say pre-COVID was that the unfortunate thing about politics is people don't pay attention until it hurts them.
Yes.
Until they're feeling the pain. Yes. And so unfortunately, people can actually see the person next to them feeling the pain and choose to look the other way because they're not feeling the pain, which I don't understand that. I'm not wired that way. Neither are you. But it seems that a lot of people are. And so the silver lining of exactly what you're saying, not that either of us wants things to get worse, but the silver lining of how bad things have been and the silver lining of things being bad for a bit longer is that there's an awful lot of people getting hurt. And I don't wish that on anyone, but that's unfortunately what it takes for people to actually start to stand up and to actually start to do anything.
But I think now is, can I just say on that, I think now is a good time for people to relax a little bit, because you can't keep going on adrenaline for 4 years, 5 years. And, me and you are still going, but we're going to need a break too. And then other people will step up, hopefully. So I get worried about people that feel like they need to know everything all the time and that they need to, and that everything bad is happening all the time. But if you don't see it, you don't know it exists. And to be honest, sometimes we need to protect ourselves. I don't follow international politics. I don't follow a lot of things because I don't have the headspace for it. And that is a trick that I've used, that you use as well, so that we have the energy to do the things that we want to do and that feeds us, So can I just I want to give people permission to turn off Telegram, to stop petitioning, to just have a break and just remember that life is still pretty good and enjoy it while you can. And then when something hits the fan again, you're going to have the energy to do what you need to do.
And that was a key theme of your tour that you did. I had the privilege of actually joining you at 2 different locations over the course of your tour. And you were saying exactly that. And I said the same thing in my course, my 6-week Getting Your Head in the Game course, is talking about the fact that you can really do yourself an enormous amount of harm investing all of your focus and energy and time into things that you can't control. In many cases, you can't even verify. A lot of the things that people are afraid of are not things that they could even independently verify in the first place. And that's all energy, the opportunity cost of that, where you could have spent that investing it into yourself and your own life, into your loved ones, your family, your community, and making a difference in a practical sense somewhere that matters to you. That's a cost that I'm not willing to pay. So you need to be willing to say no to a bunch of things and just tune a bunch of things out and bring your focus down to the area where sort of
and
the area.
Not feel bad about it. Don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah. None of us can save the world. All we can do is make our little part of the world a little bit better. And if we all focused on that, the irony is we would save the world. If we all stopped trying to save the world and just make our world a little bit better, we would save the world. That's the tragic reality of it.
That is funny.
Yeah, well, I mean, unfortunately, it's kind of true. So, where do you see this going? Obviously, you're sort of saying you think it's going to have to get a little bit worse before it gets better. Do you really feel that it's going to get better? And let's put a bit of a benchmark on this. Do you think we're going to have to become Venezuela? Do you think it's going to have to turn into 40 years of economic collapse and hardship and government oppression and fake elections? Do you think we're going to get that far, or do you think that we're going to be able to turn this around before then?
I haven't even thought that far into it really.
Sure.
I hope though that we can stop that, because we do have the foresight of seeing what has happened to those countries. And I do think, like, traveling Australia, I want to give people some hope here. Like, I know that we're all in a bubble with the freedom movement, but I go outside the bubble on a regular basis, okay? And I talk to random people at caravan parks, at petrol stations, wherever, okay? I'm a friendly person and I'm alone all the time, so I'm approachable, okay? So I talk to a lot of people, right? And like 99.9% of everyone I've spoken to is awake. At least they don't believe the government and they don't believe the mainstream media. So what I think is going to happen, okay, is those scales, like the measuring scales that kind of go like this, right? What are they called? I don't know. Anyway, scales. Okay.
Scales, yeah.
I think that 60 to 75% of Australians are actually awake to wokeism. They don't like gender ideology. They might be pro-vaccine. That's not the point here. But they are against like censorship and they are pro-freedom and things like that. But everyone's too scared to speak out about it because there's not enough people speaking out with them. But somewhere along the lines, when enough people, and that's why I say self-censoring is so dangerous, when enough people in their private lives start speaking out, it's going to give the freedom and the safety to the other people to speak out. And there's going to be this situation where it's going to be like a tipping point, and then it's going to be like kaboom. It's just going to it's going to go really, really quickly because all of those people were already awake. They were just waiting for the right time to say it. Now, the reason I think this is not just because I've traveled, by the way, the world. I've traveled Europe, and it's the same situation. Sure. I've traveled third world countries since COVID as well, and they're all awake as well. It's just crazy, right? The odds are too crazy to imagine that. But think about the referendums. You've got the Australian referendum, The Voice, and then you had a referendum in Ireland, which is even, I won't go into details, but it was even more, it was so woke. It was basically taking taking the word mother out of the Constitution, basically. Anyway, but that's a short version. But Australia, all the marketing was for the yes vote. You guys know that. In Ireland, all the marketing was for the yes vote. Now, in Ireland, they had something significantly different. All 5 major parties were on the side of the yes vote. At least in Australia, we had some opposition for the first time in a long time with the Liberal Party and Jacinta Price. But we won by, I think it was 62% or something like that. They won the no side, the Conservative side, by 72%. Now, the reason why this proves my point is that people are willing to vote the right way if they understand it. They are willing to speak up only if it's in the privacy of the ballot box and their ballot is anonymous and they won't be censored on Facebook and their friends won't know, and they probably go home and tell their friends they voted yes, but no one actually knows. So that gave me so much confidence. I mean, of course, I'm a little bit annoyed that they're not strong enough to just speak now, but that's okay. But it did prove to me that people aren't stupid; they're just scared, and that was really that's what I'm hopeful too. I just think there needs to be some sort of situation like where it just goes kaboom, and we're all like, "Oh my gosh, you're awake too!" It's like, yeah. Anyway, that's it.
Well, the first time I saw that dynamic that you're talking about was when I was in the US in 2016, just before Trump was elected the first time. And I say the first time because I'm one of those people who thinks he was probably elected the second time as well. But anyway, moving on. In 2016, it was a couple of months before the election, and it was I noticed this really weird dynamic going on. If you'd see a lot of signs up saying to vote for Hillary Clinton, and you didn't see Trump signs anywhere. And you go to a restaurant, you go to a cafe, and I'm an Aussie, so people wouldn't recognize the accent and would want to talk to me. Oh, where are you from? Blah, blah. I'd always end up in great conversations with someone at the table next to me, or the wait staff, or whoever it might be. And if they were going to vote for Hillary Clinton, they would find a way to weave it into the conversation. Usually, it's a little bit like being a vegan. Like, you don't have to ask somebody if they're vegan. You will know within a few minutes of talking to them that they're vegan, because they will find a way to tell you. It was the same thing with voting for Hillary Clinton. And so then I began to make a game of it. And if someone didn't tell me that they were voting for Hillary, I would find a moment in the conversation to say, look, I'm from Australia. I don't really know what's going on over here at all, but I find it really fascinating. What are your thoughts on the upcoming election? Trump versus Hillary. And I kid you not, what they would do is they would actually glance and make sure that no one could hear them. They would physically check their environment, lower their voice and lean in and say, well, actually, I'm thinking I'm probably going to vote for Donald Trump. And they had to tell me like it was a secret. And I got to thinking about what's going on psychologically here and what are the potential implications of this. And I realized, of course, that under such circumstances where one side is out and proud and loud and the other side feels like they're going to be attacked if they say it too loudly, that the polls are never going to be accurate. Because when a pollster rings up and says, hey, I want to get your thoughts on the election, the person voting for Hillary goes, hey, I'm voting for Hillary. The person voting for Trump goes, I'm busy. Right? Yeah. And so the polls were not going to be an accurate reflection of what the actual public sentiment was. And that proved to be the case when the election actually came along. The same thing proved to be true with the voice. The same thing was true of I don't know if you were paying attention to politics back when we had the Republic referendum. Again, all the media, all the political parties, pretty much all the celebrities, all the money was on the side of becoming a republic, and yet the people rejected it. I think it was 54% to 46% in that case. I don't remember exactly. And so there's this real divergence where you have this sense for one side that they are demonized, that they are evil for having the view that they have. And so I think you're exactly right. There are a lot more people who share our views that unfortunately aren't willing to speak up because it's demonized. They're fearful, but they will express it in a ballot box. One of the challenges we have, though, Monica, and I know that you sort of dabbled on the fringes of politics and sort of backed away from it, as have I. I ran for the Senate. I was unsuccessful. I've backed away from that now. I want to focus on the commentary side of things. So there's no judgment in that observation, Monica. But one of the problems that we have is that for those people who are aware of what's going on, there aren't a lot of great options. The Liberal Party has betrayed its values. They've got a couple of good individuals. They're slowly weeding them out. They got rid of Senator Amanda Stoker. They've just forced Senator Jared Rennick to go his own way because he couldn't get a decent spot on their ballot for Queensland. Senator Alex Antic in South Australia, thankfully, looks pretty safe. Senator Matt Canavan's situation, I don't remember the details of, but you look at it and go, and you look at the Liberal Party in Victoria and what an absolute betrayal of basic conservative values that they have. I can't help but feel that the solution's not in politics, Monica, but we have to take it into our own hands.
Yeah, look, it might not be in the at the moment but the problem is that the digital ID, the gender ideology, the misinformation, that's all being done through major party politics. So look, obviously, if 90% of the people just said no, well, they couldn't achieve anything. You know what I mean? And I think that if they push too far, I think that is what will happen. Well, it won't be 90%, but it will be a lot. So at the moment, I do think it is far more important to focus on yourself and focus on your family and focus on preparing and energy and things like that. However, you know, there is a possibility that that we could infiltrate and take back the major parties and be the ones voting for things in Parliament. It's possible, but it's a 10 or 15 year plan, and it's got to be strategic.
Yeah,
that's the.
And I think it's one of those, Sorry, I think it's one of those things that we have to do and we have to pursue. But we can't put all of our eggs into that one basket, and we have to accept that is a long-term plan. That's not something we're not going to take over before the next election. Unfortunately, we saw people in relatively recent elections making grand promises about who was going to be prime minister and that sort of thing, and that's a really destructive thing that raises false hope and unrealistic expectations. And you know, of course, inevitably, it never worked out that way, and you know, people got hurt. People felt betrayed and disillusioned and so forth, and that's a really unfortunate thing. I'm just trying to re-find a comment that I saw here. There we go. So Milt McFarlane has said, I've just got here 132 watching. Wonderful. That's 132 watching on the specific page that you're on, Milt. We've actually got closer to 1,000 people watching across all the different pages and YouTube channels. We're going out to 6 different channels at the moment. So just be aware, there's a lot more people on board this that you might be aware of. Now, I've been talking about local councils for a while, and Tim has just made a very timely comment here. Topher, you say this now. It was you that convinced me to run for council. Yes, local council. We have been letting the left of politics, and I don't like the left-right thing either. You were correct earlier when you were sort of cautious in the use of that term, Monica. I share that hesitation, but it is a shorthand that most people sort of understand. I'm a libertarian. I'm equally evil to the left thinks I'm evil, the right thinks I'm evil. As a libertarian, but nevertheless, the left of politics, the Greens in particular, have done a really good job of taking over local councils. We've just seen a New South Wales local council election. We saw the Libertarian Party get a number of candidates in. We've seen some really good independent candidates get in. Victoria, I know there's a big push on, Tim being one of them, but there are some fantastic people that are now stepping up. Does this strike you as a natural evolution of people waking up? Does this strike you as a good use of energy? It really is that more local thing, or for you, would you still think that that's long-term planning?
No, that's the local council. If you're going to get involved in any politics, absolutely get involved in local council. And the reason I say that is because you can actually make a difference in a small area, but you can actually ban drag queen story times if you want to. You can. You can, and you can have more local events. You can do these things, and that's empowering, because we kind of went too high at the beginning. We thought we could change the country in one election. We actually thought that because we thought we had enough momentum. We were wrong, okay, or we did it wrong. I don't know, but either way, we can actually change things on a local level, and it's been proven in New South Wales. Did you hear about Cessnock?
Yes, so, amazing.
That freedom people have just taken over Cessnock, mayorship and majority in the council as well. I went there for an event. I've met them. They were a massive group, and it makes sense that they were able to do it. I'm going to interview him, and maybe you'd want to interview him as well, because I want to inspire Victoria that this can actually be done. How cool is that? I mean,
it's so good. And here's the thing: incredible. People write off local council and say, "Oh, that's just about rubbish and parks and so forth." No. That's what it should be about. That's if local councils stayed in their lanes and just did their actual jobs, that statement would be true. But sadly, it's not true, and it hasn't been for some time. And so, unfortunately, we have to, even just to get councils back to those basics. Even if that's your only objective, we need to get in there and take these away from, because what's happening now is we're seeing councils directly making sister city relationships, which is another UN kind of concept, sister city relationships with other cities around the world, spending a fortune on junkets, traveling, wasting taxpayer money, and also signing up to things like sustainable development goals, things like various woke agendas and various carbon reduction schemes and 15-minute city schemes. That's now happening directly at a local council level. It should not be happening. It shouldn't be happening, but it is. And even just to get in and stop those sorts of things from happening is going to have a wonderfully positive effect on your local community.
Oh, what a waste of money. I mean, I do not want to talk about the Israel-Palestine thing, but I do want to say that, like, I find it hilarious that a council in Victoria will have a vote on a ceasefire. It's like, dude, they don't care. No one cares.
Yeah.
How can you be that arrogant to think that a little town in Australia is, no one cares. People are getting bombed. People are getting hurt. People's lives are lost. Oh, but this council in Australia voted to... Come on, give me a break.
I couldn't agree more, Monica. I share your intense frustration. I couldn't agree more. Look, we just ticked over the 1 hour mark, and I did say that we weren't going to. Yeah, I did say we weren't going to go past an hour, and I know you've got a lot of work you've got to do before you can go to bed. I do just want to. I want to give a final plug to your book. Wonderful book, and for those that have joined since I mentioned it before, I read it before it was released because I wrote the foreword to it. And not only did I learn new things about Monica and develop a deeper appreciation for and respect for Monica, but also as a dad of 2 young girls, they're very, very young at the moment. But as a dad and having to look forward to raising them, I found it a tremendously useful book that I will actually reread as my girls get older in order to bring some of these things back to mind and have, I'm not going to give anything away, but be more aware of things to look out for and things to be aware of in the raising of my daughters than what I would otherwise have been. So I really do recommend everyone to get a hold of Monica's book. Go to monicasmit.com. I am going to plug Good People Break Bad Laws as well. Good People Break Bad Laws specifically talks about civil disobedience. And if we're looking at a world where we've got misinformation, disinformation bills and various other terrible pieces of legislation in place, we need people who are going to have the guts to say, I'm sorry, government, I will not comply. I'm not going to do that. Or I will continue to do the thing that my conscience requires me to do, even if you say that I can't. That's civil disobedience. And there are right ways to practice it and there are wrong ways to practice it. And that's a conversation we need to be having right now. And that's what my book, Good People Break Bad Laws, is all about. Monica, it really sort of draws on the lessons that you and myself and many other good people down in Victoria had to learn during the lockdown era. Did you ever picture yourself, last question, did you ever picture yourself as a younger woman being an outlaw in that sense and being on the streets and really getting involved in this kind of a movement?
You know, I got to say, I kind of did. I got to say.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, I remember in my drinking, partying days, which is what I talk about in my book, I was about 22 or something, and I was probably stoned and drunk and who knows what else. Anyway, and I remember thinking to myself, you're gonna pay for this. Like, you're gonna pay for this time that you're wrecking your body and you're being disrespected and things like that. You're gonna have to pay back to society or something like that. And I knew that it would come in a form of like some sort of voice or something. And I even started a bit later, about 27, once I started getting myself like right and I was like maturing and things like that. Then I started to think that I did have a voice or something. And my friends said I was crazy and stuff like that. And you start to think that you are crazy until you're not. So then when RDA happened and when the lockdowns happened, it actually kind of all fit into place. And I had been thinking it for a very long time, actually. Not constantly, but it was just there. I was like, I think God wants you to do something. And I was like, nah, not really. And then it happened. So yeah, I kind of did see it coming.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't until I was in my mid-20s and late 20s, and when I began as Topher, when I made my first Topher video, and I discovered a side to myself that had not previously existed. When I was in the army, which is my early 20s, I was a rule follower to a T. I was so cringe. It's just embarrassing. I was a good little Christian boy raised in a good little Christian home, following the rules and doing what I was told. I was trying my best to be an absolute model, perfect soldier and blah, blah, blah. But it was actually my time in the army. I refer to that as my time seeing behind the curtain. and I saw the reality of what Oz was, the great and powerful Oz, the revered military, and that really began my journey towards being a libertarian. And about 5 years after I left the army, I became a troublemaker. Go figure.
Well, I have my parents to blame. I got to be honest. They are rebels. They've always been rebels, but they've been like good rebels, you know. But I reckon sometimes they do think they're a little bit above the law, and I got that from them, you know. And I'm like, bloody hell, you guys! Like you made me like this, you know. And they kind of feed me on it. They encourage me a little bit, you know. But and also my first activism moment was during the same-sex marriage campaign, and I was against that only because of the implications on law that would change. And we're seeing it right now. I said that it would have to be taught in school sex education because it's now law. So it's going to be, and look at it, it's now being taught in every school basically. And I remember feeling threatened. I got death threats. People called my work. And this was a long time ago and I was a lot younger. So I actually got a taste of it. And then I kind of backed away until something else excited me, I guess.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, monicasmit.com, please keep an eye on that. Number one, to grab a copy of Monica's book, but also once the new fundraiser, which is not for her court costs that have been awarded against her, but it is for the cost of lawyers to run an appeal against that decision. So keep an eye on all of that and go to goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. I'm just putting it back in the comments now, and I'll put in just www.monicasmit.com, yeah? Smit.com. I'll put that in as well. Good People Break Bad Laws is where you can find my merch, you can find my my books, and you can find the course as well, Getting Ahead in the Game. Also, if you haven't seen it, Monica is in my documentary, Good People Break Bad Laws, is in my documentary, Battleground Melbourne. You can watch that completely for free at battlegroundmelbourne.com. I'll put that in as well. If you haven't seen it.
And we're going to CPAC together, right?
We go to CPAC together to do Battleground Melbourne live. So if you can get to CPAC in Brisbane this year, battlegroundmelbourne.com. Yep. So go there. So you can watch the documentary completely for free. And if you can get to CPAC, then you'll be able to see Monica and myself in Battleground Melbourne live. I believe we have a prime time slot on the Saturday.
Ooh, really? That's good. Yeah. And I'm so glad you made that documentary, Topher, because you know, it's going to go down in history. You know that. We all know that. And we forget what happened. And you just have to watch that documentary to remember. And I just say everyone out there, I tried to tender it as evidence in my court case, but it was a really long shot. I wanted to have a police officer on the stand and force him to watch the whole thing. But I think that was a bit of an illusion that I could have gotten that, but it would have been so hilarious and great.
Look, anyway. It would have been so funny. And there's a lot of people making comments about it. So thank you everyone for your very, very kind words. Now, Forest for the People. This is really important, guys. I will be in Kinglake on Saturday for the Forest for the People rally. The government are unfortunately now trying to lock up even more of our land into national parks. And there is a wonderful group of people in Northern Victoria pushing back. So I emceed their rally in Mansfield about 6 weeks ago or so, and I'm emceeing again in Kinglake. So look up Forests for the People in Kinglake. It's on this Saturday. I believe it starts at midday, but just Google it, Forest for the People, or search for it on Facebook. You'll find the event, Forests for the People in Kinglake. And hopefully I will see you there. Monica, thank you so much. Deeply, deeply grateful for you spending over an hour with us here tonight, despite all the madness going on. Please, 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 if you're on one of my pages watching right now, go and follow Monica's social media. Get onto her monicasmit.com website and follow her email address. And hey, if you're following on one of Monica's pages and you want to do the same for me, that'd be great too. Yeah. But please make sure you support this incredible woman. She's got guts, she's got principles, and I'm really excited to see where things go from here. Monica, thank you so much.
See you soon. Ciao.
See you soon.